Listen to Mikel Arteta.
Unity, respect, commitment, passion.
These are the values that Arsenal were founded on in 1886, when Scotsman David Danskin and 15 fellow munition workers in Woolwich formed the club and called it Dial Square Football Club.
Without unity, you can achieve what we want to achieve.
These values remain as part of the club as they transformed into Royal Arsenal in the early 1900s.
The culture and the values that we represent, and for me there are three main ones. One is respect, the other one is commitment, and the other is passion.
Arsenal fans have no idea how good their manager is.
He's above or beyond a good manager.
He's a freak, but in a positive way.
Another level really, seeing how he works, seeing how his mind operates, picking up stuff.
He is the embodiment of the values and philosophies at Arsenal.
First of all, it's having the feeling of being privileged to represent this club and be in the position that you are every time you come through that door.
It is more than a club, but a family.
We always talk about family and being connected.
And a family can only be united when they share the same values.
Our way of playing, our way of transmitting our values, our connection with our fans, our ownership is everybody uniform.
Arteta has incorporated these values in his tactics.
The way he connects the team and environment he creates here, I think is brilliant.
That's consistency, but it also sounds like obsession.
It is.
He has brought the club together as one, unified the players and the fans in ways that haven't been seen at Arsenal in years.
Feels like you've rejuvenated the club. It feels like there's a real togetherness from the supporters, the atmosphere.
His leadership looks to be accepted by the players, and there's a connection between him and the team.
And bringing light to the club is just beautiful, because I can see the people coming to watch us and the people working for the club that they're really enjoying it.
Arsenal has always been a club that had been known for their fluid attacking under Wenger.
He inspired English football. I think he took English football to a different level.
But they were also a club who were solid defensively and disciplined, as seen from the success they experienced under George Graham. Arteta is combining the two styles.
We have to show passion and we have to show aggression. And I want to attack. I want to dominate the opponent. I want the opponent to play in their own half.
Creating a team that can beat you both with skill and physicality. A team that is a nightmare to break down defensively.
To create a high performance environment. And this is what we want to do here.
When he took over in December of 2019, Arsenal were at a tipping point.
He's speechless. I can understand why. It was poor.
Their glory days were far behind them and confidence was at an all-time low. Arsenal didn't just need some slight changes. They needed a complete overhaul.
I want to embrace everybody together. Change the vibe, change the energy. Bring energy back to them and convince them and make them feel this we love to do this. This is our profession and we could not pick a better place to do it.
Arteta wasn't just coming in to coach, but to start a project.
I had a really clear plan. I put a plan of 5 different phases for the club, where we are comparing to the rest of the team, the timeline and everything that we have to hit in every phase.
While Arteta's Arsenal shines now, the philosophy behind their rise has been years in the making by the Spaniard.
We've been preparing for this for years, I think now.
His passion for Arsenal is a massive reason why he was willing to do the dirty work to help the team return to the top. That passion started from his days as a player, with the Spaniard enjoying the most successful period of his career as a gunner.
I had a dream to play for this club, and that dream was because the way Arsenal played under Arsène.
While his talent was noticeable when he was at Everton, being voted the Premier League Midfielder of the Year by viewers of Sky Sport, beating Cristiano Ronaldo to the award in 2006, Arteta wasn't able to win trophies until he got to Arsenal. He scored against his former club Everton in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup in 2014, scored his penalty against Wigan in the semis, then captained the side at Wembley when Arsenal defeated Hull City to become FA Cup champions, his first major honor in English football. The Spaniard was known for his creativity as a midfielder, but his leadership qualities stood out even more.
To thank him for his contribution not only as a player but as well as a leader.
It's why he was named Arsenal captain despite only being at the club for a short period of time. He understood the game tactically at a higher level than anyone else. It's why he was able to still compete in one of the toughest leagues in the world as he aged. It's also why he can see the bigger picture as a manager. In his first season as full-time captain, Arteta won the 2014 Community Shield after Arsenal defeated Manchester City 3-0. The next year he came on as a substitute as Arsenal beat Chelsea to win the 2015 Community Shield. Despite the short time he spent at Arsenal as a player, his passion for the club grew. As he received a standing ovation from the crowd at full-time on his last match as a professional player, he felt the love of the fans. He knew he would return, but he needed to develop the next chapter of his career before he did.
I say to the people that I'm going outside, I'm going to learn, I'm going to get prepared, and hopefully one day I can come back here when I feel that I'm ready.
With his playing career done, Arteta quickly transitioned to coaching. When he was at Arsenal, he already knew he wanted to be a manager as he began getting his badges.
And I decided at 28 to start to do my coaching badges. I started to do when I was at Arsenal. Arsène was very supportive with it.
Playing under Arsène Wenger also helped his development as he was able to learn from one of the greatest managers of all time.
I had a phenomenal time with him, great experiences. I learned a lot. That pushed me as well after I did my career to become a coach.
In order to continue his learning, Arteta went to Manchester City. What a better place to learn and develop as a manager than by being an assistant coach to Pep Guardiola. Arteta had actually met Guardiola before, back in the Barcelona academy.
We met when I was 15 years old. Obviously, he was my idol. He was the one to try to emulate if I wanted to be a first-team player at Barcelona, and we built that relationship from there.
Since then, the two kept in touch, with Arteta even providing Pep information about English teams that he would face in the Champions League.
I was still playing, and he was a Barcelona manager and Bayern Munich manager. He used to call me to ask me about English teams and how would you play against that, and we built that relationship.
It was at that moment that Pep knew Arteta would make a good coach.
And after, the 15 minutes, half an hour, and more than that, I said, yeah, he's the man.
And he made it very obvious to Mikel that he wanted him by his side as he took on the City project.
One day it was very clear to me, the day that I'm in England, I have a dream is to do what I did in Barcelona in this league when everybody says that it's impossible to do, and I would like your help and support and your experience to help me to achieve that dream.
Working next to his mentor, Arteta learned quickly. He had initial doubts because he had never coached anybody before and was immediately going into the best coaching staff in the world.
I had my fears because I said, listen, I haven't coached anybody, so how am I going to go to the best coaching staff in the world?
But Pep had confidence in Arteta's ability. He saw potential.
Pep was so supportive, so open, and he gave me so much license right from the beginning that it made my job easier.
His influence on me was great, was massive, was so important to become a better manager.
Arteta watched the dynamics of the practices, taking in as much information as he could.
Just listen a lot and talk very little, and you have to get in the dynamic of the coaching staff, what the manager really wants to understand, because something is the idea and another thing is the daily basics.
As he worked closer with the players, he began to create a relationship with them.
And then with the players, it was easy, They were a great group of players, they welcomed me so much.
Mikel Arteta helped us, both of them, we make a lot of actions here, now to the box.
You can see from this clip the work he had been doing with Raheem Sterling in terms of improving his finishing and movement in the box.
Los goles que están metiendo Pep no es porque ha mejorado muchísimo una acción individual, sino porque repite mucho más la situación donde él se puede encontrar con algo.
He gave Pep support, helping him understand the culture of English football and the Premier League.
We have to understand the culture of English football, how referees act, how the media works. There was a lot of things that obviously Pep was very interested, and I spent 14, 15 years of my life in this country, so he was very interested on that. So,
despite some early struggles, City dominated English football when Arteta was by Pep's side.
There were moments of tension and pressure, but the nicest memories I have is the amount of time that we sit there laughing and almost crying together of laughing.
2 Premier League titles and 3 domestic cups, Arteta had been able to experience firsthand what it takes to be part of a winning coaching staff.
I've seen it firsthand, how tough, how hard, but as well how beautiful it is when you have to make the decision, when you have a plan, when you have a vision, and you can execute it.
From Wenger to Pep, he had learned what it takes to successfully manage a team.
Pep was amazing because he gave me so much space. Okay, you want to do that, try that. You want to do this idea, do it.
But Arteta inspired to be more than just an assistant, and Pep understood this.
I said, Pep, my aim is one day I really want to do this. And he knew.
In fact, it was obvious where Arteta wanted to go.
Everyone has dreams. Everyone has. And I know he went to the team, his club, the team he dreams of.
The one club that he would never celebrate against when he was on that City bench.
I remember that when we were together here, when we scored a lot of goals with our opponents, always he jumped and celebrated, except one team. In one team, every time I scored a goal, I jumped, come back, he was sitting there. It was Arsenal.
With more experience under his belt, Arteta returned to the club he loved the most on December 20th, 2019.
Jack, how big a surprise is this? Mikel Arteta appointed manager of Arsenal.
Returning to London was like returning home. but Arteta knew there was a lot of work that needed to be done.
The demand for this football club has to be like this, and everybody that jumps through that door has to understand that that's what we're going to be requiring, and the demands on us have to be this.
At the time, there was some hesitation.
Arteta hasn't managed a paper bag. He might turn out to be a great coach. Just wait and see. But it's Guardiola doing the business over there at City, not Arteta.
Are you happy with the appointment of Mikel Arteta?
Listen, I think if we're going to be honest, I think most fans would have been a little bit underwhelmed by that appointment.
In hindsight, do you think it was quite brave to take a job like that as your first job?
Probably, yes.
After all, he had no experience coming into an Arsenal side that was a disaster.
The club was in a really difficult place. The atmosphere around the whole place was difficult, and I never done it in my life.
Unai Emery had left the team broken, but Arteta knew what he was getting into.
If I wouldn't feel that I'm ready and prepared for this, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
In his own words, he had seen the club lose direction, and he felt responsible for delivering passion and energy back into the football club.
The first thing is a little bit to change the energy. I feel last week I was here with Manchester City, and I was a little bit down after the game when I felt what was going on. So we have to try to engage everybody.
The first half season under Arteta was successful. He got his first win as an Arsenal coach in a 2-0 win over United at the Emirates.
How does it feel to have that first win as a manager?
Great. The feeling is incredible. I'm so happy.
Then he beat his former employer 2-0 in the FA Cup semi-final.
What a performance from Arsenal. The apprentice outsmarts the master.
Arsenal went on to defeat Chelsea 2-1 in the final to become champions, making Arteta the first person to win the FA Cup as both captain and coach of the Gunners.
In the air now, because they have won the FA Cup yet again, full time at Wembley.
I was brought here with the intention to bring the club back where it belongs, which is winning trophies. So thank you so much for the club for trusting in me, for those players to follow.
He also became the first manager to win a trophy in his first season in charge of the club since George Graham.
Winning trophies, I think, it gathers everybody together. It sets some belief. We win sometime, I think, because of that win as well.
The good form continued into the next season, where Arsenal defeated Liverpool 5-4 on penalties to win the Community Shield. Then in March of 2021, Arteta got his first victory in the North London derby, thanks to goals from Martin Odegaard and Lacazette.
Winning your first North London derby as Arsenal manager?
Well, extremely happy and proud about the way the boys played today.
Odegaard was one of the first faces of the Arteta rebuild project. He believed in it so much that he was willing to leave Real Madrid to join an Arsenal team that was in an unstable situation at the time.
Yeah, I spoke to him before coming here, of course, so that was very important for me, and he seems like a top manager, and yeah, I really liked his ideas.
A playmaking magician, someone who understood the values and philosophies of Arteta. He is both expressive and entertaining in his play, while committed 100% to the team. That's what Arteta wants to see from his player.
But if I have to use him as an example for the rest of the team, is what he does without the ball. He's one of our most talented players, the way he tracks back, the way he runs.
It's why Arteta made him the captain, and why he's one of the very best players in the Premier League.
He represents the values of this football club, of this team, of his teammates and staff in the best possible way.
On top of Odegaard, Gabriel had been signed that year from Lille. Since then, we have seen the Brazilian transform from a relatively unknown talent in Ligue 1 to one of the best center backs in the Premier League. There isn't a player who embodies the passion and desire that Arteta is looking for than the Brazilian. Not only was Arteta busy in the transfer market, picking up players that would develop into key figures of his project, but he was also getting rid of the dead weight of the club.
And I could feel that with certain players playing in certain position, the way I wanted to play, it wasn't going to work out. When you are in that process and you want to go faster, there are people that are holding that boat and putting weight on it.
2021 saw the departure of Mesut Ozil, Mustafi, Mkhitaryan. In the following years, more players were moved out of the club, like Bellerin, Lacazette, and Aubameyang.
But I also think in January getting moving, Mesut Ozil on, Socrates, Guendouzi, Mustafi at the back as well. That almost brings a feel-good factor to the club.
The situation with Aubameyang was a turning point for Arsenal. A moment that really showcased that Arteta's values are non-negotiable. Despite being club captain and a wonderful scorer, Arteta made it clear that Oba's attitude did not align with his vision of the project.
Our demands and who do we want to be as a club and how we want to represent this football club to a different level. And when those standards are not met,
you know that you cannot participate in our daily basics.
He had been dropped for the North London derby after arriving late for a team meeting. There was even footage of him getting a new tattoo despite strict COVID-19 protocols.
I think it's a really clear statement from the club. It's a decision that we have made following the incident, the last incident that we have with the player. And this is where we stand.
He was stripped of the captaincy and dropped for the squad after Arteta felt he wasn't demonstrating commitment and passion for the club.
We have decided as a club that he's no longer our captain. So you should know that. The other decision is that for now, he's not involved in the squad.
Aubameyang was named captain under Unai Emery in 2019, so this move felt symbolic. It was a transition point and a reminder that the Arteta era was underway. With new faces and underperforming players being removed, there was optimism around the club. They even made it to the semi-finals of the Europa League, but lost 2-1 to their previous manager, Unai Emery's Villarreal.
Mikel, not the result you expected, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course, we didn't want to come here and lose, obviously.
But while the club was making some deep runs in tournaments, their league performances were still uneven, with the team ending up in 8th place in the Premier League for both the 2020 and 2021 season.
I don't accept them, these standards. It's nowhere near. Nowhere near.
They are still 10th in the league, which I'm sure you would say is not acceptable for a club of Arsenal's stature.
How big a job have you got here in terms of restructuring,
Massive. You only
rebuilding?
need to look at the difference between the two teams today, and the gap is enormous.
Now we need to move on to consistency. That's going to be very key.
Then in the beginning of the 2022 season, Arteta began to struggle.
Very difficult. It's something new that comes across. Again, it's all through COVID period. A lot of issues that we have some issues with individual players, we have external issues. It was a season with a lot of questions around everything.
Arsenal started their season with a 2-0 loss to newly promoted Brentford.
This is Tony after the game, when we play at Brentford. You know what he did? You know this tweet? Nice kick about with the boys this afternoon.
Followed by losses to Chelsea and Manchester City, which left the club at the bottom of the league without a point or a goal, and left Arteta in a tough position going into the international break.
Arteta's got to go. Everything's got to change from top to bottom. The club is just rotten now.
Not if, it's a case of when Arteta is taken out of the commission at Arsenal.
He is not good enough to be manager of Arsenal Football Club.
Arteta out, come on now.
I think Mikel bought himself some time by winning the FA Cup last year.
Even though the results were not there, you could see what kind of football Arteta wanted to play.
But I like the way he set up the team. People were going forward more often than not. The intensity was there. The desire of winning the game was there. And I think that team, when they play like that, when they play on the front foot and they go forward, they can beat any team in the league.
Playing from the back with quick passes leading to transitions in order to score. With the club struggling to score goals, there were questions regarding whether Arteta made the right decision with Aubameyang.
And sometimes the trajectories or the objective of each individual is different to the clubs, and you have to respect that.
But Arteta knew he had made the right decision for the long term.
And I knew, and I was convinced what I was doing, and at some stage it was going to come out.
Despite the shouts for the Spaniard to be sacked, Arsenal ended up winning all of their league games in September, leading to Arteta winning Manager of the Month. While the club had been 4th for most of the second half of the season, defeats to Tottenham and Newcastle cost him to get 5th. But 5th was still a progress from 8th.
And I actually enjoyed this season, the young players I could get behind it. I think the fan base almost got behind it. They could accept that they weren't going to be challenging for the biggest honours, but there was something building, something starting.
Dig into what you believe and what your guts tell you. Because if you start to listen too much about what you should be doing, what you're not doing right, is end up affecting what you are trying to do.
In 2023, the vision of entertaining and beautiful football that Arteta wanted to play was seen. Fast, direct, Arsenal completely outperformed expectations as they jumped from being 5th the season before to title contenders. There was a unity between the players that was not evident in many years. There is no better example to showcase this than what happened with Granit Xhaka. Under Unai Emery, Xhaka looked like he didn't belong in the Premier League. Fans questioned his ability, and tensions rose in the match against Crystal Palace when the Swiss international was booed when being subbed off. He threw his shirt on the ground and swore at the Arsenal fans. People were convinced that Xhaka would never play for Arsenal again after he was stripped of the captaincy.
It's really hard to come back from that.
But underneath that rage, Arteta saw a player that was driven, that had passion.
He's a freak, but in a positive way, because he sees details I didn't have a coach, you see that.
Arteta persuaded him to stay at the club, and the Swiss midfielder was pivotal. The atmosphere in the stadiums was now electric. Not only were Arsenal winning games, but doing it with class. This was the beautiful football fans were used to watching under Wenger. It's what connected the fans to the club. Arsenal was now competing against Manchester City, and they were well ahead of schedule.
Are you ahead or behind?
We are ahead.
The seasons that have followed are a reminder that the 2023 year was no fluke. Arsenal are once again in the title race, going toe-to-toe with Pep's Manchester City side, one of the greatest teams this league has ever seen. Arsenal have established themselves as one of the best clubs in Europe again. They are now so tactically flexible, being able to press opponents and hold the ball, but also able to defend well as a unit. They are a nightmare to play against. They now have the personnel to be defensively solid and aggressive like George Graham's Arsenal teams, but also have the skills to play beautiful football like Wenger's. It shows what is possible when you believe. When you look back at Arteta's first signings, pretty much all of them were ridiculed at the time.
Ben White could not play as a fullback. He could not play as a full. Aaron Ramsey wasn't good enough, and now you have signed another keeper, and it's a catastrophe. But Aaron Ramsey wasn't good enough for Arsenal. Bukayo Saka was a left back.
When Ben White was signed, people thought it was an overpay, but he's been one of the best right backs in the league. Rice was viewed as an overrated player, yet now he's seen as one of the very best midfielders in the world.
You said it there to play under Mikel. How influential has he been for you?
Yeah, massive. Honestly, I think so much I've learned about football that I hadn't really had seen before.
Even Raya was seen as an unnecessary signing considering how much Arteta has spent for Ramsdale, who had done pretty well in the 2023 season. But Raya has shown that he is on another level, and another example that Arteta sees the bigger picture. All of these signings have ended up helping Arsenal in their push for the Premier League title. Arteta didn't just rely on new signings, he has also developed existing players. Bukayo Saka started as a left back and is now the face of Arsenal. He is a phenomenal player that at worst is the second best winger in the world. He was the PFA Young Player of the Year for the 2023 season, and he showed it was no fluke as he got 18 goals and 14 assists in the following season, then 20 goals and 14 assists in the 2024 season. Saka is about as close as Arsenal have gone to a Thierry Henry-esque player, someone who is the face of the club, considered one of the best in the world, and who embodies what the club stands for.
I think he represents this club in the best possible way.
Arteta has done wonders for the team and has brought the fans closer to the football club than ever before. There is a level of optimism around the Emirates that has not been seen in decades. They are not just trying to compete, but rather to rebuild the entire culture of the London Giants. The foundation has been set, it's only a matter of time for more trophies to follow. One of the best players to look at to see Arteta and Arsenal's values is Declan Rice. To see why Arsenal wanted him so bad and the impact that he has had, you have to check out this video right here.